This is the Hemisync demonstration exercise. It is designed to acquaint you with the Hemisync process so that you have a better understanding of the effects of its use and the potentials of its applications in the area of your particular interest. First of all, set the volume in your headphones so that you hear my voice very softly, just enough to understand my words and no more. Now relax a moment as you listen to the sound of ocean surf, the sound of natural power, a symbol we use to depict the natural power of Hemisync. I'll return with you in a few moments.
You're in elementary school. The chalkboard squeaks. Kids shuffle in their seats, and the smell of rubber soles on polished linoleum hangs in the air. Suddenly, you're called out of class. No explanation. Just a quiet hallway. A folding armchair in an empty room, headphones placed over your ears, a puzzle, a strange tone in one ear and then the other. This is the first step along your path to a gateway. A man in a suit watching from the corner, taking notes. Maybe it's just a hearing test. Or maybe it wasn't. If you are a child of the 80s or 90s, you too could have very well been involved in what they call the GATE program. This is a program for the gifted and talented education. You might even have other memories, vague ones, of course, fractured, fuzzy memories around a pink drink that you were told to sip, or being shown cards with strange symbols on them. There were probably even sounds playing, and you were told to listen to these tones and these sounds and reply with which ear you hear them come into. I personally remember these experiences for myself. I never knew that it was called the GATE program, but I did know that they considered me to be a gifted and talented child, and I was in some type of education for that purpose. There were also memories in my childhood of working with alien beings, if you will, who would teach me how to enhance these gifts in a small, sterile, white classroom type setting with multiple other children on the floor around me, and we would practice. We would practice things like levitating the blocks, the building blocks that were on the floor in front of us, or playing card games where we would guess the symbol or the color that would be on the card before it was shown to us. We also practiced levitation. You remember those games that we played as children? Light as a feather, stiff as a board. There's a reason we played those games. And for some of us, it actually worked. We levitated. Now, a lot of people are scared of what the GATE program for children was really all about because it was covert. And there's a lot of people that are also scared of what's called the Gateway program that's for adults, that was actually fashioned just right before we started, we, the government, whoever, started looking for these gifted children. Now, some of you who have followed me for a while, you know that I have memories of volunteering to come here. And I have reason to believe that some of these programs were nefarious because they were trying to find us. It's also the reason they want to test your DNA, because they can track you that way. They can find you through your DNA. I was often told as a child by my parents, my father in particular, to not tell people what I could do, to not tell people who I am or what I remember. He did that to protect me. But at the same time, it was because of who he was that they knew who I was and that I was gifted. Now, I don't think that my father threw me under the bus. I don't think that he told them anything, but there does seem to be a connection there between people who work with covert operations, if you will, or military, and their children being involved in different types of projects. My brother, that was closest to me in age, also had memories of being taken out of the classroom and into a different setting, sometimes even taken on what we called field trips with the men in coats in a van to another location where my sight abilities were worked on, tested, and enhanced. And for him, it was more of weapons training. Now, again, some of it was nefarious, but also some of it has been very beneficial, not just for their projects, but also for advancing science and really looking into quantum physics and understanding it more fully, understanding consciousness more fully, understanding the collective connection that we all have more fully, which are all very good things if in the right hands, of course. But it has also been a very good experience for myself personally, because I wouldn't be the person that I am today without it. It sort of fast tracked me, if you will, to become better at being psychic, to be better at telekinesis and psychokinesis, which is the true meaning of mind over matter, psychokinesis. It's the ability to control things that are in the material form, regardless of their distance from you, simply through thought. This is why I try to teach these things to everyone who wants to listen and learn, because I have been through these programs. I do know what I'm talking about, and I've tested them with my own scientific methods and principles to make sure that it wasn't just silly childhood memories or make believe. A lot of people, all of the sudden, it seems, are remembering being part of the GATE program, the Gifted and Talented Education Program for Children. So, for all of you, I want to just read what I have found on the GATE program. GATE stands for Gifted and Talented Education. It is a program that is designed to provide differentiated learning opportunities for students who demonstrate exceptional abilities in one or more areas. These areas can include intellectual ability, academic aptitude, creativity, leadership, or visual and performing arts. GATE programs aim to meet the unique needs of these students by offering enriched or accelerated curriculum, fostering critical and creative thinking, and encouraging self-directed learning. Now I'm going to pause right there for a moment because I want you to think back to when you were in school and how everything was very rigid and very calculated for us to memorize and regurgitate what we were learning. Even in church, really. All of it was things for us to memorize and be able to regurgitate. No critical thinking, no thinking outside the box, no asking any questions. Just believe what you're being told. So, in that aspect, in that respect of how our educational system has narrowed our point of view, this is why I think the GATE program was actually very good because it did teach critical thinking. It did teach creative thinking. It encouraged it. And the imagination is a very important tool in order to use your intuitive psi abilities. So, for that, I do feel like I have been very much enriched, though I know there are very few people that would agree with that because most of them only see this as a nefarious thing. But we're all remembering it now. We're all starting to wake up to these truths that we were part of this program. And I think that that, too, is for a reason and in perfect timing with all of the other great awakenings that are taking place around us. Here's a more detailed look at the GATE programs. Of course, GATE is an acronym for the Gifted and Talented Education. What are the goals of the GATE program? The goals are to identify gifted and talented students. And all of the schools across the nation were watching for gifted and talented children. I demonstrated my gifts through knowing the answer to math problems without even doing the problem, or by answering questions that my teacher would ask before she could actually ask them. So I got flagged and noticed right away, just from who I am naturally. When my father said, "Don't tell people who you are," I didn't understand that that meant clam up and don't say anything at all. There's like a little gnat or something flying around me. So the GATE program aims to identify these students who exhibit exceptional abilities and potential. It also has a goal of providing differentiated instruction. This would involve tailoring the curriculum and the teaching methods to meet the specific learning needs of each gifted student, which again is a beneficial thing. I think was good because we weren't in a box. We weren't in a class with like 30 some students where you're only learning at one pace. And all children learn differently. Obviously, gifted children are going to learn quicker. And there are some children that have learning disabilities to where they need the tutoring and the patience to learn a little slower. And then you have the children right in the middle that can fit right into that corral that they want to shove us all into. So, um, another goal of the GATE program is to offer the enriched and accelerated learning. The GATE program offers advanced coursework, independent study opportunities, and even opportunities to progress at a faster pace. It also aims to develop critical and creative thinking skills. GATE programs are often emphasized with activities that promote problem solving, innovation, and creative expression. It also fosters self directed learning. Many GATE programs encourage the students to take ownership of their own learning and pursue their interests independently. And again, this was like the fundamental foundations of how I became the staunch researcher that I am now today. I can literally research anything and find the answers that I'm looking for. Um, and so I think this was very beneficial for and appropriate for what we're going through and the research that needed to be done that was necessary in several aspects in my own personal growth and in finding these truths that I've been digging for and sharing with you on my podcast. Educators and parents are also able to provide input on a student's strengths and potentials through recommendations. Now, I know that my teachers were involved. I just really don't know how far involved my parents were. I have no memory of that. It's not like they ever had a discussion with me over it, other than my dad pulling me aside and we would have lots of conversations alone out in the yard or going for a walk or going on a fishing trip where I would tell him the things that I was learning how to do. And all of that had something to do with my psi abilities. He was very interested in it. And perhaps that's why. Or perhaps it's because he too had abilities. Then there's also the portfolio reviews. Students may be asked to submit samples of their work that demonstrate their abilities. And again, I remember doing this. I remember there being a portfolio put together for me specifically. And interviews and observations. Students may be interviewed or observed to access their skills and potential. And again, this was a routine thing for me, to be pulled out of the regular classroom, taken into another room, typically a room that was inside of the office, just a smaller room that was inside of the principal's, the main office of the school, and these tests being conducted. I remember very vividly that the man with the briefcase and the suit that would put the headphones on me, set me in a chair in the middle of the room and put the headphones on me. He even went to the extremes to bring in a container to set me inside of, like a clear walled container. Looked like a giant bank chute, really. Um, just to ensure that there was no way possible that I was hearing these tones that he was playing for me, because I would literally hear the tone before he ever pushed the button. And he couldn't figure out how that was happening. And I was too young to understand. I didn't know why he was confused about me saying it's in my right ear or my left ear, because I thought that's what the test was all about. It wasn't until we got more in depth with it and he had me in the silence chamber, to make sure I couldn't hear anything outside of the chamber, that he started actually questioning me to the point that I understood then that simply because of his thought on which ear he would choose to send the tone to, that I was knowing which tone I would hear in, or which ear I would hear the tone in. And this amazed them. So then I immediately and quickly advanced to more intimate learning and intricate learning. And I did very well in all of that. And then, of course, there are many children I am learning who have an experience of also being around alien beings and being taught psychic abilities. Now, mind you, we're not really taught how to be psychic. We already have it, we're born with it, but we are taught how to use it. So, in essence, they are teaching you how to be psychic, because society does not teach you that you're psychic. Society does not teach you how to be psychic. So they are teaching you how to be psychic, but they're teaching you how to tap into what you already have. We are all born with it. This is our spark of the divine that's within all of us, this ability. And the beauty of it is, this consciousness is not exclusive to humans alone. This consciousness exists in everything that lives, everything, even a single cell amoeba. It exists in everything. And science is finally catching up to prove that, which is very exciting for me. Um, so what are some of the common characteristics of gifted students? Okay. Advanced vocabulary and language skills. For myself, check. I was very articulate at a very young age and graduated from high school in advanced English, advanced honors from English and literature, because I was not only very good at my language and vocabulary skills, I was also a very fast reader and had a photographic memory and could tell you minute details from a 200-page book I read within 15 or 20 minutes. So I graduated with honors from being in these advanced classes. You also have exceptional memory and recall. So again, photographic memory. Strong problem solving abilities. Again, check. Intellectual curiosity and a thirst for knowledge. Definite check. I have always had a thirst for knowledge, and I still do to this very day. And I'm super serious about intellectual curiosities. If I discover something new, even if it's something I'm never going to use in my life as an application, I still want to understand how it works because I just find that very fascinating. Originality and creativity is something else they look for. Obviously, I had that. Advanced research skills. Again, clearly something that I have. Strong motivation to learn. Check mark again. Ability to learn at a faster pace. Deep and complex thinking ability. And a wide range of interests. So, those are the things that they pay attention to and look for in the gifted and talented children's program. These are the things that you would need to have and demonstrate in order for them to put you into these programs. And I can even remember being in these programs in preschool. My brother and I both can remember being taken in the bus or the van on field trips from preschool. Um, the gateway tapes are what I played at the beginning of this podcast. And it's interesting to me that the HemiSync gateway experience is so sought after by some and so absolutely feared by others. There is nothing dangerous about it. I will assure you, there is no danger in using the gateway tapes. I personally, as an adult, have looked into the gateway tapes and they have felt very familiar to me for good reason. Because the children that are in the GATE program were given these audible HemiSync tapes to listen to. Because what it does is it helps to make your right hemisphere and your left hemisphere of your brain have a conversation and connect. And that is an important tool in order to activate your pineal gland that sits right in the middle in between the two hemispheres. And this is where all of your psi abilities lie, is in your pineal gland. So I understand that there are a lot of people that are scared of it, but I assure you, there is nothing to be afraid of when it comes to this. The only thing to fear is fear itself. But I find it very interesting that there is this wave of people online recently, mostly Gen Xers and some millennials, who are now suddenly remembering these moments or experiences. And they're asking the same unsettling questions. What exactly was the GATE program? Was it a way to help smart kids stay challenged? Or was it something else that a growing number of people are now starting to believe that the gate, wasn't just about education, but a part of a covert government experiment, one that was designed to help identify and recruit children for psychic potential projects in the future. So, in a sense, it's become a gate conspiracy, and for good reason, even though it sounds far fetched to some. Um, but I, again, can testify to my own memories and recall of actually being involved in government or military controlled psychic projects from the ages of about 8 or 9 until I was around 11 or 12. I can remember sitting in a room and being taught what is now being called remote viewing, which I never really realized before is the same thing as astral projection or having a psychic experience, a psychic vision, if you will. They all run hand in hand. And yes, you can have a spontaneous psychic experience. It can come to you in your waking state or your dream state. But you can also intentionally have a psychic experience where you're looking beyond into the future or you're looking behind you into the past. We can access both directions because time is not linear the way that we're taught. In the quantum field, time is fluid, it's static. Time and space basically don't even exist the way that we understand it in our physical 3D world. But I can remember sitting there at a table and being given coordinates or a location somewhere on Earth and asked to go there in my astral body and tell them what I see. Now, why this ended when I was 10 or 11 years old, you may be asking. Well, I think part of it was because my mother moved us 800 and some miles to a different location. So that could have been a significant part of it. She actually moved us to get away from my father. She personally wanted away from my father. And he actually was in the location we were moving to before we got there while we were moving. So he either had some good intel or he had some hella good psychic experience of his own, psychic wisdom of his own, because he knew exactly where we were before we got there. And um, he kept tabs on me after we moved, but it wasn't as intimate of a relationship. I wasn't able to be as close to him. I wasn't able to see him as often. And so that sort of gives me the feeling that perhaps he was in the know about it, and all of his stuff and his contacts and everything going on was where we had moved from, not where we moved to. Um, and a little background on my dad: he worked for Lockheed before it was Lockheed and Martin, in some black budget projects there. Um, U.S. Coast Guard. He was a captain. Um, he was a captain in the Merchant Marines. He was a captain on riverboats. So he was involved in a lot of different things. And I even have reason to believe that he probably worked with the CIA. Um, and that's for another time. But my dad had connections, is my point. And I think that was probably the main reason why these covert operations that I was involved in as a child ended at that age, because my mother had moved us 800 some miles to a new location, back to where her family was from. And so all of that ended. But it did not end the interaction that I was having with alien beings. And my mother, my brother, and myself, all three witnessed on numerous occasions, frequently, regularly, seeing what you would call a UAP or a UFO in the sky, or landing in a field near us, or alien beings being in our presence. So this wasn't something made up. We were all three witnessing it and speaking of it together because it was a regular thing. Now, of course, my mother did not realize that we were actually being taken, and often we didn't realize it either because you do the memory swipe thing on people when you take them or whatever, and so a lot of times we didn't remember. But there are um, different things that trigger memory that will bring back um, partial recall or total recall of the visitations and the experiences. And so throughout my entire life, that continued and still to this day continues. Not as frequently now as it was then, but still pretty regular compared to other people. And I think it runs in bloodlines. Um, but there's definitely a connection with the gate programs that are happening here on Earth and the alien beings being interested in children that have heightened psychic abilities, that can innately use their psychic abilities. I also have memories of being 3, 4, 5 years old and telling my parents that I volunteered to come here for something that would come to be known as the Great Awakening, and all of the different details that came with that. But I was telling them about that long before the gate programs or the alien programs that I was involved in. So it's not like the memories are muddied and this is some kind of psyop or MK Ultra crap that happened to me to make me think that that's what was going on. And clearly, we're living in very obvious Great Awakening times as I speak to you and make this podcast on June 17th of 2025. So it's all coming to fruition at this point. But I got a little off topic. The point here was that a lot of people think that this is some kind of nefarious um, project, and it was something that came from the CIA. And I personally don't have a lot of good things to say about the CIA. Um, but this is a project that the CIA specifically was conducting to monitor and possibly even to use children for unexplained mental abilities, psychic abilities. Think Stranger Things, only real. And I just want to read a quote from one Reddit user. And I know Reddit's not like the best place to get things from, but I found this interesting. This one Reddit user who says they were part of the GATE program says that they remember they would call us down individually out from class and give us strange tests. I remember questions about rearranging shapes. I remember questions about moral situations and who should be the one to get punished. I remember trying to guess uh, Zener cards before they were revealed to me. And that's a little alarming to me because Zener cards were very specifically invented to test patients for ESP. If this was just one outlier, you could dismiss it, but it isn't. There's thousands of people reporting this nearly identical experiences, isolated testing with Zener cards, strange sounds that they're hearing in headphones, and recurring symbols. And let's not forget the mysterious pink or purple drink. And many of these memories come with the same eerie footnote about the tests, noting a blank spot, years years of forgetting until now that this actually even happened to you. The theory is that these programs were to try and crack down on kids that might have potential Okay, this is a theory. Like powers, psychic abilities. For those who claim they were part of something strange, the memories that they share are strikingly similar. They recall being pulled from regular classrooms for special testing, often alone, sometimes with the windows covered on the room. They remember clanky headphones and weird noises. They remember being in a room at the edge of a long, silent hallway of old walls, off white paint, no one else around. I would have to put on bulky headphones and listen to this man talking about different things, like in this exercise for your own development process, designed by you. Then ocean waves and several different tones would come and blend together afterwards. They would have me drink this pink chalky liquid, and sometimes red tablets were asked to be taken. Um, I would have to match shapes, identify patterns, even read books upside down. Soon remembering Rorschach tests, others were even taught to untangle a knotted string. A few say they were shown disturbing or confusing images but can't remember exactly what they were. But again and again, the pink drink comes up, sometimes given after a session, sometimes to just one child in the session. It sounds like science fiction, but it gets weirder. And I remember being given a purplish liquid after a test and then nothing. I didn't remember the program again until I was in my 30s. Aside from some fragmented memories, much like many former GATE students describe, with a strange emotional response to this program is a deep discomfort. Some beg their parents claiming not to go to school, claiming to feel sick so that they could stay home. But most say when it comes to GATE, they seem to feel a sense of dread they couldn't even explain. And more troubling are the adults who say that they didn't remember anything about Gate until years, sometimes decades later. And when the memories did return, they came with emotional distress, gut feelings, nightmares, panic attacks, and in some cases, a life marked by instability or addiction or mental illness or a persistent feeling of wasted potential. And some theorize even that this is no accident. There's even a belief, unverifiable but deeply held, that those deemed unsuitable for psychic training were scrubbed and released, their memories suppressed, and their lives derailed. But where did this theory come from? And more importantly, is there any truth to it? So let's talk about some facts about it, and let's think about what we know about covert US government projects. And all of this brings good points up, right? And I just want to say that with my own experience now, being a spiritual teacher and spiritual healer, that a lot of experiences that people have vague, small, fragmented memories of, yes, psychologically speaking, we do have the ability in our psyche to bury traumatic events that we're not ready to remember yet. But also, if those memories were swiped from us intentionally by someone else, the little fragments and stuff that you do get would naturally feel scary, even if they're not. So I want to point that out because I mean, I took psych classes, right, in school. I took psych 101 and 202, and I took sociology, and I understand how the mind thinks enough to understand that if it's something we don't understand, it can be scary. Even hearing a sound that you can't determine what it is can make you feel frightened and fearful, even if it's not a sound that should be feared. So, from a logical point of view, I can understand why so many people would feel this distress or this fear or this anxiety within them from these things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that anything nefarious or negative or bad happened to us. Now, with that being said, yes, I think that several of the people that were in the children that were in the GATE program were tested to a certain extent and then sent back to regular class like nothing ever happened and never called upon again. I 100% agree with that. To feel like you're less than is ridiculous. None of us should feel like we're less than because literally every single person on this planet has the ability built within you, born with it, to be psychic. It's just a matter of exercising that muscle within your pineal gland. So Don't feel like you were rejected, and don't feel like you're not worthy of learning more and capable of doing more, because that's what people like me are here for, to help you enhance that and strengthen it so that you can use it. It's just like any other muscle in your body. If you don't use it, you lose it to a certain extent. I mean, it's always there. It's just not going to be as strong. So, if you are interested in learning more about psychic abilities and how to enhance them, I am more than happy to help teach you this. And my information for my website and how to contact me will be in the link down below. But I just wanted to share with everyone that I too remember this. We're not alone in this. And it doesn't have to be as scary and nefarious as it feels just because the pieces are fuzzy and fragmented. So I'm probably going to do some more deep dive research into this to see what else I can really find and pull out on what the children did specifically. So stay tuned for that. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you've been involved in these programs or you have any kind of memories that resonated with any of the things that I listed previously. And let's talk about it. Let's share what we're doing here or what we've experienced, and let's get to the bottom of it and put all the pieces together so we've got a bigger puzzle. Thank you very much for viewing this, and I will see you again soon.